you going to talk over the...
Play something. Somebody play something.
Oh, shit! Oh. It's a good show. It's a great show. It's a shit show. Pickle Rick show. Not a Jerry show. Scary Terry show. Lick my balls show. Szechuan sauce show. It's the fucking Rick and Morty fan show, bitch.
Oh man, I had so much fun recording that. That was pretty fun. We got that done really quickly, but it was fun. Welcome into the Rick and Morty fan show. This is the first episode. I'm your host, Kieron. We're going to talk about episode 1, the pilot, which is a very underrated episode in my mind. It's funny, you talk to people about the pilot episode and it's almost never in anyone's top favorites, top 5s, top 10s. But it's fantastic, and you get a lot of things that are iconic to Rick and Morty fans. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to do some random stuff. We're also going to talk about Ryan Ridley, who is a producer and very close working on the first couple seasons of Rick and Morty, and some of his voices and some Easter eggs. What we're not going to do is we're not going to like go crazy about facts and things like that. I don't know who's in the chat. If anyone wants to sign in, tell me who you are. But if you haven't been to a Fandom Empire show before, it's very chat driven. We like to respond to our chats. You guys type in any questions about anything. We'll read it on. I'll read it on the air. You can super chat, and then I will definitely answer or say whatever you say in the super chat. Could be anything. You could be like, man, that fucking guy's got he's got a crooked jaw. He sucks. His voice sucks. He's a piece of shit. I'll still read it. It doesn't matter. I'm ready to go here. So let's get into Rick and Morty, the pilot episode. So we're gonna start off. We get to start off with the kind of iconic for Rick and Morty, dragging Morty out of bed scene, which is. I mean, it reoccurs. It reoccurs in some commercials, and it also reappears when he drags Jerry out of bed for the Rick and Jerry episode, the Whirly Durly. And it's definitely something you think of when you think of Rick and Morty. Drags him out of bed. We get the awesome, we get to see all Morty's kind of posters and things like that, which is cool too. They did a really good job of having Morty be he's definitely a 14-year-old. He's definitely a kid just going through puberty. He's got the poster of the bikini model on his wall. He has a poster that says Darth Buddha. So it's like a Darth Vader sitting in a lotus position. There's a couple weird things that have been pointed out. For some reason, he has a coat hook with his coat on it. I don't know why his room has a coat hook. That doesn't really make sense to people, but anyways, it's great that he starts off that way, and it's funny to think that Rick will just drag Morty out of bed in the middle of the night. Time obviously doesn't exist to him, what time of day it is, whatever. It's you got to do it now, which we see later in the episode. And then we get the next scene. Another scene that's awesome to talk about. It's Rick drunkly flying his ship. And he does the whole thing where he talks about Jessica and Morty being Adam and Eve, and that he's going to blow up the whole universe and restart it, and they get to be Adam and Eve, which it's pretty funny. It's a good scene, but I think the important part about this is people wonder whether this is still the same original universe, because at the end of it, Rick falls out of his car, or his spaceship, a blackout drunk, falls over. There's like beer cans and stuff everywhere. He's definitely not waking back up. He's going to sleep now. And then a neutrino bomb arms. And Morty does not know how to disarm those at this point. He does later on, but this is far beyond his disabling bombs capabilities come in. So a lot of people think that this is it's a different universe. It's one that got nuked. So that's a Morty and a Rick who killed themselves or blew up the universe or Cronenberged the universe. If you want to type in the chat if you think that was the C-137 universe, or if that was a now non-existent universe, you can go ahead and put your opinion in there. I'll read some of them later. The other thing is we also get this Rick that's totally blackout drunk, which we only see a couple times, even though he's like obviously not even, I could say functioning alcoholic. He functions to a level that we could function to, but to Rick's level, obviously he gets a little bit unhinged. The other important part about this scene is that this is it's something that they gave to Adult Swim originally to tell them, hey, we got a show you want to watch, want to put Rick and Morty on. This is what we want to do. And it still has the original track in it, from what I know, where we get Justin Roiland doing both voices and riffing off himself. And he also he does a lot more burping and crazy, drunk, I don't know. His voice is definitely different for Rick in this, because it's a very early incarnation. And I know that Adult Swim didn't want him to voice Morty after this, because he basically pushes Morty over, and Morty was just supposed to be a dumb character who could kick around. And Morty had to kind of evolve for Adult Swim to be okay with that. So it's an important scene. It's great. The whole thing about Adam and Eve is pretty funny. We actually have a lot of great scenes in this one. So next scene, let me just look in the comments before I go on there. Jeremy Landry says, "Let's go Cowboys." He's a Cowboys fan. I knew that already. Intel Wild's in here. DMT's in here. Very nice. Good friends of the channel. Is Darren Sands in there too? Awesome. All right, cool. I guess we'll go on. We didn't get any questions or anything. So in that scene, we get the breakfast scene, which is awesome. It sets up Jerry's character so well. The first line that Jerry utters is "Hey, did anyone see that singing show last night? Which one do you think's going to be the greatest singer?" And it's definitely right off the board, right off the cuff, teaches you that Jerry is the everyday person who's unspectacular in any way. Not to say if you like singing shows, that's whatever. I watch trash TV all the time, but it's definitely purposely in there to set up hey, this guy's a fucking loser, which I actually like Jerry, but we can go on. That's for another day, probably. What else do we got here? Oh, so we got some great lines. We got the, he's like, "Oh, Jerry, you got everything. You're a real Julius Caesar." And then he's basically kind of butters him up and says "Don't worry, you're the king around here." But then also says you're fucking stupid. He always does this kind of passive aggressive stuff. And he really mind fucks the whole family in this whole in this scene. I think he pretty much screws over every person, and it's kind of behind you have to think about some of it, but yeah, Rick is basically emotionally blackmailing his family throughout this scene in the show. He has the school rant where he says, well, it's probably one of the best rants in the whole show, but he says 2 + 2, and then a guy in the back says 4, and then fucking they go off to the get a carton of milk, and then some guy gives you a piece of paper that says you take a dump or something, and he just like freaks out on them about how school is like useless, which I get. It's a, like, when I first heard this, I was like, yeah, he's totally right. Like, school is dumb. And, you know, it's funny because I work at a school, so I'm not sure how much I should say that. But upon further revisiting, like, I mean, it's not really true. It's one of those things that really caters to people who are meta and elite and, you know, think that they're too smart for school. But it is hilarious, though, because we'll get to something in the next scene that makes it funny. But what else do we got here? Oh, yeah. And then just at the end of the scene, him is saying to Beth that, you know, like, you really made these eggs, right? You really killed these eggs. I wish your mother was here to see them. And then just like, you could see how he's getting his rent free, and he's like tagged along with his family because he's basically emotionally blackmailing Beth throughout the whole thing, which is hilarious too. Like, it's a great setup. Like, this episode sets up the show so well, and that's the important parts that we're breaking down here. Next scene, we get Goldenfold, who's kind of like crazy and creepy. This is the scene where he kind of like is teaching, and he says like everybody, like, we're gonna learn about something today. It's called math, and he freaks out on them. And a lot of people think that I've heard a lot of comments, people saying that his character doesn't really make sense in this opening scene. I don't really agree with that, though. He freaks out on people. He also has the creepy part where Morty is dreaming about grabbing Jessica's boobs, and he's daydreaming off, and really he's grabbing Mr. Goldenfold's boobs after class is done. And it's, you know, and he says, Morty, like, 5 more minutes of this and I'm going to get angry. And it kind of makes him really creepy and kind of a weird, like, pedo character. But that's not really... It's funny, people think that doesn't make sense, but it's not really out of his character because we see inside his dreams, and they're kind of creepy. He freaks out on people throughout the show. Like, it's not the first time he yells at someone, and he's also definitely has some weird sexual hang-ups throughout the show. Later on, he tries to get the cream that will make him irresistible to women in the Devil episode, and he ends up becoming impotent until Rick fixes it. And yeah, like, we see inside his dreams, and he dreams about Summer in his dream inside his dream in the Inception type angle. So, like, he's definitely weird. So I find it odd that some people think that because of the pilot, they ended up changing Goldenfold's character, where really he's always kind of weird. Like, he's a great character too. I love the voice for Mr. Goldenfold. We'll definitely do a spotlight on him at some point. Oh my God, Jeremy says, don't kink shame Kieron. I don't kink shame nobody. I think my wife might be in the chat though, so I should probably move on with that. So this scene actually, when Morty's in the dream and they have all the numbers falling, and it's like really kind of wacky, and like Jessica says that she wants him to like feel her little Mortys, which are her boobs, is like a really hilarious scene when you think of it, because like, if you remember, like, I think most of us in the chat here are guys. We have like 3-4 girls, I think. But if you remember back to, you know, being in grade 9, you probably did some daydreaming about boobies at some point. And I think that's where this scene misses. And the reason that I say it misses is because this scene, according to Dan Harmon, was supposed to set up that Morty has a learning disability. That was the whole point of this scene, was to set up the seeds of that. And we get that later, and it comes across in a better way. But that's what this scene was in there for. And they admit that it kind of falls flat because anyone could be doing that. Like, you know, I definitely fell asleep in class. I remember falling asleep in German class in grade 11, and someone dumped a bottle of water on my head in the middle of class. So I woke up. And it was funny because the teacher no-sold it and just like basically went on with class while my friend Corey was dumping water on my head. I think it was my friend Corey who actually couldn't make it here tonight, which sucks, but oh well. He will make it here. So yeah, that scene was supposed to be all about Morty having a learning disability, which is weird because it never really came across that way. Do you have a question here, Mr. Producer Sean?
Man, you found a way to get me to talk, huh?
Yeah, I'm gonna. Producer Sean, who has not seen this episode. Boo! Can you press the boo button for yourself, Sean?
You know, that's totally not fair that you're asking me to do that.
Oh, right. Just get it done.
That would require knowing where it went.
Fine, you just pretend you don't know where it is. What's the question?
So DMT asks a little earlier on, question, what was your personal favorite scene in this episode, and what joke made you laugh the most when you watched it for the first time?
Actually, that's a great question. It brings up something I was going to bring up anyways, which is the first time I saw this episode, I did not like it, and I didn't like Rick and Morty until the third episode, which my brothers made me watch. I didn't get it the first time I watched it, but there was one thing I laughed about, just over the top laughed about, which is what kept me going, and that was the gag about shooting the bureaucrats because they're just, what he says, shoot the bugs, they're just robots, don't worry, and Morty blows one apart, and then he's like, Rick, I think they're real, and he's like, they're bureaucrats, I don't respect them, and then the one bug is bleeding to death, and this guy's like, Glenn's bleeding, call his family. Yeah, I was going to get to that later, but that was my favorite part in this episode. Asking me my favorite anything Rick and Morty is really hard to do because I watch the episodes constantly and I love them for different reasons every time. So what can you do? I change my favorite episode probably every run through I do, and I have done 30 run throughs at least. It's life for me, which is why I'm here. Which is why you're probably here. Let's get to the next scene. I think we already got the next picture up. That's Frank the Bully. Frank the Bully, I talked about him a little bit in some of the groups that I brought this up in, and I know Ryan Ridley wants to bring this character back. But it's kind of a gag from what I get that Harmon and Royland just basically shut him down every time. He's like, what do you think Frank would... You think Frank would be alive in the new universe or the new, the place that they portaled through to? And they're always like, no, he doesn't exist. He's not coming back. They just basically try to bother him about it all the time. I love the character though. I love the lines. I thought the bully was super relatable because he freaks out and he says what are you saying? My family's poor? I'm going to cut you because my family's rich. And he's definitely coming from a place where he's mentally unstable. And I don't know. I think most Rick and Morty fans love that line. Let's go to the next scene. Oh, okay. So the next scene is where Rick is portals off of this world. He steals Morty from class. He freezes Frank the Bully, and Frank shatters and dies. But they go to the next world, and another great part. Rick basically... he basically tries to teach Morty that the way to get through something is to charge on it head on and don't be afraid. You can't be afraid of something. You need to bull through and that's how we learn as people. But in the middle of his rant, he sees a giant alien and freaks out. He's like, oh my God, I never fucking seen that thing, Morty. I don't know what to do about that. And he basically in the middle of telling him it's okay, Morty, we'll be fine. We're in a crazy alien world, but that's how you're going to learn in this place. And then basically freaks out. And we have a super chat alert, super chat from Matt Whitfield. Loved the enthusiasm and love that you have put into this and on Facebook page. You're doing an awesome job. By the way, the Bucks still suck. And thank you very much. I appreciate that. What's that, producer Sean? Are you going to show your Bucks jersey that you're wearing?
Well, that'll be the next show. But to Matt and the Bucks haters.
Oh my God. I do not know what to do with the Bucks haters because they won the Super Bowl. Yeah. But yeah, like that's there you go. That's a quick example of the super chat and how you can chat in whatever you want and I will read it. You could be like, Tom Brady sucks. He's a fucking little bitch. And I'll read it. Doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. It's your show as much as it's my show. So like, let's get some talking about this. I'll bring up as many comments as I can at the end of the show, but let's get to the end of the show. Next scene, we get the Mega Tree scene, which is great. This is one of the scenes where you notice Rick's voice being different the most. There's the part he basically puts on the Back to the Future shoes, except they're anti-gravity shoes, so you can walk on walls. And Rick's like, with these things, baby, you can go up, down, sideways. It doesn't matter. It'll work fine. And Morty walks off the cliff and falls and breaks his legs. And then Rick says, you have to turn them on, Morty, which is funny because like he just assumes that Morty knew how to use the weird anti-gravity shoes. But when Morty's down there and his legs are broken and he's flailing around and it's like, what I think we have a picture of that here. We got Morty's broken legs there? I think it's. Are you on the broken legs picture? Yeah. But Rick basically just asks him to, like, he's like, oh man, like, I know your legs are broken, but can you help me harvest the seeds still? And Morty finally stands up to Rick, which is one of the points that they needed to put in this episode for Adult Swim to want to keep it, was that Morty had to stand up to Rick sometimes. And Rick goes off, portals off to another universe, portals back, breaks the Harmon Law, which is no time travel. There is some speculation about this as well. This is another thing, if you can chat, if you're any Rick and Morty super fans that want to chat about whether this was time travel or not. He leaves, he goes to another dimension, he has a good time with a lot of ladies, as he says to Morty. Like a lot of young women wanted to get with him because they halted the aging process, and he was the only old guy in the universe. So apparently that was attractive to a lot of ladies. And he comes back. He comes back after what seemed to be living there for a month, or at least enough to do all of that. Injects Morty with leg healing serum, which is apparently at every grocery store at this in this universe, and basically like heals him instantly. And then the problem is he doesn't have any charge for his portal gun, which is funny because like in my mind I think this is probably a gag. I feel like Rick could always figure his way out of that. They end up going to Intergalactic Customs. I really doubt that that's what Rick had to do. I feel like he could have made portal fluid, he didn't really run out. He doesn't strike me as the kind of person who fucks up that way. Like, he almost never fucks up. Dan Harmon actually says he's as powerful as 9 Doctor Who's. So I feel like Doctor Who wouldn't do that, and I don't feel like Rick would do that. So I feel like this is definitely Rick teaching Morty a lesson for having been dumb enough to break his legs or have to impede his work by even 1 second. It does seem like Rick always ends up, every time Morty messes up in any way, Rick makes sure that it's a big screw up. If Rick screws up, then it's like he just fixes it in a second. Like it's going away. So we also get the mega trees, which look like giant cocks, and they're like sprouting out the seeds. And Rick tells Morty that he's gonna have to shove the seeds way up his butthole, which is important. I also think that Rick does this to basically get Morty to have to screw himself over and shove giant seeds up his ass, because they end up dissolving and he ends up having to get more anyways by the end, which we'll get to. So I feel like this is once again Rick just fucking with everybody. Like, I feel like he's more of an asshole than people realize. We get the next scene, Intergalactic Customs. There's lots of cool stuff in here. I would recommend watching, like, if you want to hear more about this scene, I would recommend watching some top 10 videos and things like that, because there's so many Easter eggs in this scene. There's so many aliens, and I know there's like some of the characters from Guar, and there's also there's a Ferengi in there. There's definitely a bunch of crazy aliens, and there's some good gags in there. There's the snot guy who has a life cycle of about 10 seconds. We also have the part I mentioned before. Where Morty ends up shooting the bug and he says it's a robot. Let's skip to the next scene. Oh, I put that in the wrong order. I think that's right. So they portal back to school. One of the cool things about when they portal to school that a lot of people don't realize is that the background characters in Rick and Morty are often Dan Harmon, Justin Roiland, and other members of the staff. And one of them I'll point out here is Ryan Ridley. If you guys see any character, there are so many characters that are Ryan Ridley's in the background. They all have black hair that comes up in little like Ace Ventura swoop. And they're all like kind of receding hairline, little black hair coming out the top. There are so many characters that have that haircut and are like nerdy little characters. They're all Ryan Ridley. And any character with red hair and glasses, one of the characters that gets sent off with the balloons in the episode with the music game show, the Get Swifty episode. Like, they send him off. I think there's a part where there's two Justin Roilands sitting in front of each other in class. Like, there's a redhead kid with glasses, and behind him is another redhead kid with glasses, and they both are intended to look like Justin Roiland, which is hilarious. Like, I love that. They portal back to school. This is where we get to the last scene, which we have the last scene picture up already. This is where it all ties together, and this is what really sets up the whole show for the future, which they do in such a perfect way. A lot of times the pilots are almost unwatchable episodes. They don't have as much jokes in them. The characters are different. When you go back and watch them, you're like, what happened? This doesn't seem like the show. And like, it doesn't happen here. It doesn't, like, you get this and you set up all the future episodes right here. They try to move Rick out of the house, which is said earlier. One of the scenes I missed was where they were setting this up by saying that they would send Rick to a home. They say they're going to send Rick to an old folks home, and he basically, he tells Morty, he tells his parents that Morty, the only way he's going to learn because he's a special kid is by going on crazy adventures with Rick, which he sets up by having the mega seeds inside Morty's rectum. They dissolve and they give him temporary super intelligence. Jerry also kind of reveals that Morty has a learning disability as well, which is kind of not really brought up again too much later, but it was definitely set up in this episode so much. And that's the reason why the parents let Morty go off on crazy adventures with his grandpa and, places that they could only imagine and could fear for him, is because they're worried that, Rick and Morty, or that Morty doesn't have friends, and now he's a friend with his grandpa. His grandpa's teaching him things and he's learning. He knew the square root of pi. He knew, what was the other one? I think it was like the first law of thermodynamics. And then it's revealed after that Rick was just fucking with him. It was only the seeds, and he's actually going to be like he's actually going to be like seizuring on the ground for the next little while, and he basically reveals himself to be a total asshole. He basically reveals himself to be a total asshole after that. Like, he's like, basically, you're super intelligent because I like fucked with you and gave you these seeds. So that's the end for the episode. This is actually the only episode that doesn't have an after credits scene. I think they all do other than that. Although it's also the only season that has 11 episodes because the pilot was kind of made separately. So that's why there's 11 episodes in that season and 10 in the rest of them. So that's a breakdown. That actually went a little bit longer than I thought it was going to go, but I'm going to scour the chat, see if we got anything about this episode that wanted to be answered, and we'll talk about that. All right. DMT says, yes, pedo jokes are rightfully frowned upon, but if it's done respectfully and responsibly, as well as 0 children getting harmed in the process, it can be funny. Just look at Quagmire from Family Guy. It's true. It's hard. I mean, they didn't really get at that as hard as Family Guy did. Quagmire is definitely a little bit more sleazy than Goldenfold, because I feel like Goldenfold's kind of harmless. But, I mean, when you get to comedy like Rick and Morty is supposed to be really shocking and crazy, as is Family Guy, as is, you know, you listen to the comedy of guys like Bill Burr and I like Norm Macdonald a lot. They say a lot of things that I don't believe in, but when they make light of it, it's funny. So, like, when it comes to comedy is supposed to be, well, it's not supposed to be for everything, but it's supposed to be outrageous. It's supposed to get you thinking things that don't make sense. When you laugh at something, it's something that's out of the ordinary. So I don't have a problem with jokes like this. I mean, I don't know very many kids that watch Rick and Morty that shouldn't or aren't there yet. I work in a school, and sometimes I wear a Rick and Morty something or other. I don't wear Rick and Morty shirts all the time, but I do see, like, kids will see that, and they're never like, oh man, I love Rick and Morty. They're always like, huh? I've seen that before, so I'm not worried about it. All right, what else do we got in the comments here? Yes, Boo Sean. Had to make light of that one. DMT. So many mixed emotions with these kind of jokes. Kind of goes along with what I was saying as well. Jeremy says, I change my favorite episode more often than I change my underwear. I will leave that to your imaginations. My question isn't even for Kieron, it's for Alicia. Where are you a fan of Rick? Oh, were you a fan of Rick and Morty before, Kieron? My relationship with Alicia predates Rick and Morty, so before it's, well, I mean, I guess it was conceptually already thought of. I think me and DMT looks like we're in the same way when it comes to comedy. I got another comment there about it. Brady rocks. The boo. Sean magically found the boo button later, but not when it was for himself. He was actually, if you guys could see this, he was doing a really good job of fiddling around like he didn't know where it was. He was like, scrolling it up and down on his Rodecaster over there, pretending he didn't know where it was. It was apparently he has located it again. All right. Question, what are your hopes for Rick and Morty Season 5? What do you want to see happen? What characters do you want to see more of? And what are your hopes for the future of the franchise? It's really weird. It's weird to be a fan of Rick and Morty because when you do interviews or when you see interviews with Dan Harmon and Justin Roiland, I would love to do interviews with them. They are very hesitant to have reoccurring characters. They don't want to fall into that. They don't ever want to fall under any shackles, which is the problem. They never want to feel like they have to go back to this character, have to go back to that one. if they find a story that fits and then it makes sense that Bird Person is there, they'll put him in it. But that's not going to happen. They're not going to shoehorn him in there. They're not going to fit him in there just to be fan service. They're definitely very aware of continuing to be creative and not having to go back to every character all the time, which is kind of odd because, I mean, if you watch Community, which is Harmon's other biggest success, they redo episodes every year. They have a Halloween episode every year. They have a paintball episode every year. They like to revisit things. They do a lot more episodes in seasons of Community, but I myself would like to see season 5 as soon as possible. Number one, I don't want them to rush it. My characters that I would like them to go back to is kind of hard. I love a lot of characters the way they are, and a lot of characters die. Like, a lot of people want Krombopolis Michael to come back. Well, Krombopolis Michael got crushed by by Rick's flying car, so he's probably not coming back. I mean, they do go to different universes, so I mean, it's always possible. Kind of stumped at that one though. A lot of my favorite characters are bit characters. I really like the episode with the fart cloud. I would like to see them come back. I really like Jermaine Clement, which is the voice for that. He's on Flight of the Conchords, which is awesome. And I don't know, that the song Goodbye Moon Man's awesome. So I would love to see what happens if some of the other fart clouds come back, and maybe they could be his voice and the other guy from Flight of the Conchords. But once again, he also dies because Morty kills him with the antimatter ray, which Krombopolis Michael had originally to kill him. How about them Cowboys? Stick it to the Cowboys as much as you can. All right. Sweet. North America Hip Hop's on here. North America Hip Hop is, go visit them on, is it Twitter or is it Instagram? I think it's Instagram. If you like hip hop, go visit them. So I want to do a spotlight here on Ryan Ridley. We got Ryan Ridley's picture up all there. That's Ryan Ridley, and that's a comparison about how he is in a lot of episodes. That's kind of an animated version of him. He does a lot of awesome voices. He always does kind of the throw-in voices. He's not, like, he's a writer and producer on the show. I believe he's been in the writer's room for a while. I think he directed or produced 10 episodes, and he's done voices in lots of those episodes as well. He is the slave owner who gets choked out by the giant Morty arm, which is a great gag. I mean, we'll get to that eventually, but doing episode by episode, we'll get that out in a while. So I'll say one of my favorite jokes is the when we get to the slave owner and he said, touch my genitals again, taint washer, and you'll be dead. And then he's like, as for you, genital washer. And he's got these like little slaves with him. He's the Lighthouse Chief who has the really boring script that Morty has to read about in the Purge episode, gets thrown down the stairs and dies, just like lots of characters do in Rick and Morty. He is the head vampire that was at the end of the Tiny Rick episode. It was the after scenes credit where he says like, Coach Ferratu has died. And he's like, we'll get back at the... Wait. He called himself Coach Ferratu? Like, what the fuck? He was like freaking out. He played Cousin Nicky. I'm walking here. He played the pizza ordering chair, the pizza ordering phone, and the pizza ordering person in that gag where they continually order different types of food that doesn't make sense. He was the giant lawyer from the Small People's Advocacy Group who let Rick and Morty go free-fi to go home. And he was also Frank the Bully that we mentioned earlier here. So he did all those voices. I love the voice. It's a really nasally type fun voice. I think he mentioned earlier that he voices any character that seems like a car salesman or like anything stupid like that, or a lawyer. They usually use him for those types of voices. One thing I like to spotlight too, though, is that he worked on Community, and he also took part in something that I guess I would say watch it, but if you don't like it, you don't like it. There's a film out there you can look up. I don't know where you can get it, but it's on there on the internet. It's called Our RoboCop Remake, and every scene is done by a different director. They basically remake all the episodes in RoboCop in the dumbest way possible. Some of them are definitely like super, super low budget, but it's pretty funny. There's some hilarious gags in there. One of the scenes is done by Ryan Ridley. Yeah, that's all we got for Ryan Ridley Spotlight. How much longer do we want to go, Sean? 5 minutes. Okay, we can do that. All right, let's look through the chat, and then we're going to do an unboxing really quickly of this Rick and Morty King of Shit Pop. I'm actually hoping, I do have some extra doubles of pops, so when we get to a certain audience, like a limit, we might even do some giveaway for some pops I have doubles of. All right, what else do we got here? One thing I love about Rick and Morty are the plot twists through the series. I love a good plot twist, but what I love even more is a story that has a good plot twist with creative thought, which Rick and Morty does. They do episodes that parody movies and things like that. They have lots of different parody characters when you think of it. They have some serialized episodes, and they have some one-offs and things like that. They do a good job of mixing it up for everything. And I know that everybody wants there to be a interdimensional cable every season, but they don't want to play by, like I said before, they don't want to keep the show in shackles and have to do something. All right. North American Hip Hop says a lot of ladies with daddy issues. Toronto Freddy says wubba lubba dub dub. Actually, he says wubba dubba dub dub. But I think I know what he's going for. Who would you say are your top 3 favorite Rick and Morty characters are and why? Top 3 favorite characters. I really like the doctor in the Anatomy Park, voiced by the English teacher in Community as well. John Oliver. I love that character in the Bone Train thing. Who else? I already mentioned I like the fart cloud. Who else can I mention that I really like? Once again, I just get in and out of characters a lot. I love Noob Noob, and that's my wife's favorite character is Noob Noob. Oh, have you watched any Doc and Marty? Ryan Kinney says. I've watched a limited amount of Doc and Marty. I know where it comes from. I know that's... from what I've seen, basically, it's all about this gag where it's basically like the Doc and Marty from Back to the Future, except for anytime they want to travel in time, Marty has to lick the Doc's balls, which was really kind of outrageous. And from what I've heard, Justin Roiland just wanted the audience to be horrified by how stupid it was, which is what Dan Harmon really started off as too. I know Harmon got in trouble for a few sketches he made early in his career and for them being really shocking and crazy. But in order to get out there, to get your things seen and to get out, to get anything over on the internet right now is crazy because there's so much stuff out there. So you have to be crazy. You have to put something out there that people will maybe not say this is the funniest thing I've ever seen. They might say this is the most fucked up thing I've ever seen. So that's going to happen. Sorry, I'm up late, guys. What's up? Says Get Gronk 25. Fucking Pops, man. 1 point of articulation. This is true. I have a Rick and Morty action figure collection, and I have a very, very, very extensive action figure collection at home. So pops are a different thing. Although I do open all my pops. I don't keep them in the package like a lot of people I do. And we get another wubba lubba dub dub. I'm in great pain. I'll probably say that every time you guys type it in. Scary Terry is my favorite episode for obvious reasons, says Toronto Freddy. I actually can't wait for producer Sean to see Scary Terry because he is a direct ripoff of a horror character. Whoop. So, without further ado, let's open up this king of shit. And I just want to do this because I know a lot of people don't open up their pops. So I thought if anybody has this, does not want to open it, and wants to know what it sounds like. I like to say unboxing, but I actually unboxed this earlier. Don't give me the boo, but I unboxed it earlier so that I could make sure it had batteries in it, which it didn't, so it wouldn't have worked. Ooh. I know some people are probably watching unboxing a pop and being like, what the hell? It's sacrilegious. All right, so this is the king of shit. Looks pretty good. I got this particular one from my cousin. And without further ado, this is the noise that it makes. Toilet flushing. And then this absolutely super elongated fart. And that's what it does. I was actually somewhat disappointed by that because I thought it would have the hilarious, like, Rick mocking the other guy and saying, like, that's the, like, you just, like, couldn't leave. Have this all to yourself. And then there's all the crazy Ricks that are basically taunting him while he's sitting on the toilet. And then that's where this scene comes from. He's unhappy. He didn't get to pull that gag off on his friend before he died. His friend being someone who said he was going to be his friend, and then that didn't really happen. Anyways, we are going to end it there. So thank you very much. I appreciate anyone who came in to come and hang out today. Fandom Empire is totally a hangout for people in the chat. Anybody who wants to send in messages, like, honestly, this thing is going to go the way you guys want it to go. So the more people that send in things and say, like, I would rather talk about this. I want to talk about this. Do you want to talk about this? We're going to talk about it because that's what we're here for. And that's what makes this channel great, is that we engage the audience. So, yeah, come in for another one. We're going to do episode 2. Right now it's going to be bi-weekly, so we won't be till next. What day is it today? Tuesday? It's Tuesday, right? Not next Tuesday, Tuesday after that. Can we get the intro music again?
Play something.
Some people didn't hear that. It's only 40 seconds.
It's a good show.
Peace out, guys.
It's a great show. It's a shit show. Pickle Rick show. Not a Jerry show. Scary Terry show. Lick my balls show. Szechuan sauce show. It's the fucking Rick and Morty fan show, bitch.
Play something. Somebody play something.
It's a good show. It's a great show. It's a shit show. Pickle Rick show. Not a Jerry show. Scary Terry show. Lick my balls show. Szechuan sauce show. It's the fucking Rick and Morty fan